This episode is sponsored by JDAQA Software Testing, your scalable solution for manual, automated, security, and performance testing. Check us out at jdaqa.com. And with that, let's get on with the show.
This is The First Customer, hosted by Jay Agnew.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the First Customer Podcast. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by a very, vivacious, is that right? Sprightly, very happy, nice lady I just got to meet, Laura-Beth LB Trucks, coach, CEO at LB Truck Coaching.
Yeah.
I think I got it all.
Yeah.
LB.
Yeah.
LB Trucks.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm so great. How about yourself?
I'm great. We were just talking about your kind of Southern background, which,
Yeah,
I talk to a lot of people who don't come from the South. So begin to talk to, I'm from Virginia. So getting to talk to a fellow Southerner for a little bit, it's fun. But all right, let's get into this. So you grew up in Alabama, you said, right?
Grew up in Alabama. So born and raised Alabama, and then went out to Colorado to work for a nonprofit, a leadership institute. And so wanted to invest in the next generation and help them be the best leaders they could be. So went out there to do that, working with college students, recent grads, and was out there for about 2 years with that program. And then I felt like I was limited. And so I went and got a master's in clinical mental health. So worked full-time, went to school full-time, and thank goodness, and finally recovered almost 9 years later post-grad school from doing that.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's intense.
it is.
I love to learn, but I feel like if I had to go back to school after I left again, I would just probably have driven off a bridge. How did you manage a 9 to 5 and getting a degree at the same time?
Well, I wish I could say it was a 9 to 5. It was not. I pieced together 3 jobs to where it equaled a full-time job. And then because grad school was during the day, it was not a night program. And so it was intense. I mean, I was reading on the go. I was writing papers. I mean, you just learn how to do it. Like essentially, like my customer was grad school. And so I had to learn how to do it. Yes.
All right, it's an incredible kind of kickoff to your career to have that sort of ridiculous drive to get all that done. Let's fast forward a little bit. You bounced around,
Yes.
you go to Tennessee.
Yes.
Where did LB Trucks come from, the coaching company itself?
Yes. So it was started because I was working for an organization. I'd been with them almost 5 years. They had taught me how to do business coaching and loved them, loved working for them. And it was just time to move on. So December of 2019, I resigned and I was client facing. So I stayed on for about a month to be able to transition the clients that I was working with to other coaches in the organization. And I launched LB Trucks Coaching. And so I hit the ground running. I mean, I resigned on I don't even remember what day it was because so much has happened since 2020. But I resigned one day and the next day was on a plane to Arizona, already working with clients. Like it was go time. There were small businesses out there that I knew were killing it in the marketplace, but also the marketplace was heavy on them. And so I was like, okay, how can I come in and help you? How can I support you and your teams? And so, I honestly, Jay, did not plan on starting my own business. Even the CEO of the business I worked with, I saw him in the parking lot of Publix, and I was like, hey, I never intended on leaving. And it happened. So January of 2020,
Wow. Well,
started.
That seems like a dangerous business model where like you have a coach, like you're in a coaching place. You're just grooming a bunch of people to go start their own business, right? Like they realize they could do it and they're on their way.
Yeah.
It's an interesting problem to have.
It is. And at the same time, like the business that I was with, and this is what I tell people all the time, is like, my intent was never to leave. Like I loved it, right? Like I had someone that was signing my paycheck. I had insurance. I didn't have to figure anything out. I showed up. There was a sales team there. I mean, I never intended on leaving. And then philosophically, we just hit a difference of opinion. And I was like, well, I can stay and be angry, which I was like, that is not what I want for my life, or I can leave. And so
Hmm.
I left, and I had been interviewing. I had a couple of job offers and I was like, nope, this isn't it. And so an opportunity presented itself for me to start this coaching business. And I was like, okay, I'm I'm going to do it. The company I'd been with was incredibly generous. I didn't have to sign a non-compete. I think that has changed since then. But gosh, Jay, it was
They're like, thank you, LB. They're like, everybody there's like,
everybody
they're
else
like,
has to
well,
sign one.
yeah, everybody there's like, cool. Thanks a lot for that. We were going to start something, but now the jig is up. LB has taken all the leads and left. No, I
Uh,
know it's not what you did.
Thank you.
Who was your first client though from your new business? How did you get them? I mean, I'm assuming it was a relationship you had established at your previous gig, right?
100. So 100%. So the guy who taught me how to do business coaching, he said from day one, he was like, LB, when you super serve the client, when you put the client at the center, you never have to worry about money. And I was like, okay, what does that mean? So he tells me that in 2015. So in 2015, I'm like, okay, Chris, that's great. He's like, I'm telling you, super serve the client. What does that mean? And he was like, that client asked for your cell phone number, you give them your cell phone number. That client, he was like, you serve this client. This coaching is not about you, it is about serving the client. I was like, okay, that's great. So I didn't realize it, but in 2015, I had started building LB Trucks coaching. Didn't know it, didn't intend on it. But Jay, I just had all these relationships of people, the clients that I was working with would reach out after hours and be like, hey, LB, I'm in a pinch. Can you help me talk through this? And I was like, yeah, I would love to help you talk through it. And so, Jay, what I realized is that marketing really is relationships. I just was building trust with these people. I cared about them. I cared about their businesses. In fact, leaving where I left was one of the hardest things because I had invested 5 years in the lives of these people. I spent more time with my clients at that organization than I did with people in the organization. And so
Hmm.
I just, Chris just taught me, he's like, LB, just be willing to go the extra mile for these clients. And he's like, yes, are there takers? Yes, there's takers in life, and you learn who they are real quickly. And Jay, I've just stuck with that philosophy of when I serve clients well, I don't have to worry about anything else. And has it burned me sometimes? Yeah, it has. But at the same time, there are so many clients that I get to serve that I absolutely love because I've gotten to build that trust with them because they know I care about them. If they call at 9 o'clock at night, I'm like, okay, what's going on? What? But I know they
Right.
don't abuse that. And so that has been the biggest thing is the first client that I got to work with, there were 3 that were right on the doorstep. And so I'm like, okay, which one was first? But it was relationships. It had been because they called me at 9 o'clock at night, very upset because something had happened. And I'm like, okay, well, let's talk through this. What's going on? I got to be an advocate for them. I got to be a cheerleader, a coach, you name it. And so it really has been about relationship with these individuals. They're not a dollar sign for me, Jay. They are a life that matters and counts. And I love getting to invest in them. And I'm incredibly humbled that they let me, right? Somebody's talking to you about their business, that's your baby. And so just knowing that they trust me is so huge. And that is very, I don't know how else to say it. That's very sacred ground that I walk on with people. And even at the organization that I was before, I got some additional responsibility put on me. And I was sitting in the chair shaking. And I remember the coach next to me was like, LB, what is wrong with you? And I looked at him and I was like, what's wrong with me? Why are you not shaking in your boots? We are going to be coaching these people on their livelihood, impacting their lives and the lives of others. You should be shaking too. And he's like, I'm good. I'm good. Jay, I feel the weight of coaching every time I sit in the chair. Because it's your life, it's your livelihood, it's how you're contributing to the world. And I want to help you be better at that. So I told you I could rabbit trail.
That's fine. I love it. And I love the passion that you have for it is obviously evident and palpable. I guess my question would be if, as you scale this business up and as you hire people and as you do these different things, if that is your goal,
Yeah.
how are you ever going to keep that spark so, hot as it is today, right? Because I can tell
Yeah.
that, if there's a handful of clients or there's 10 clients or whatever it is that you're working with, one-on-one and you're doing your thing, like I can see how you could stay emotionally engaged in something like that.
Yeah.
Are you prepared, or how would you prepare
Yeah.
to scale that out if you have a team of people that's helping people and, you're not exactly in the day-to-day as you are today?
Do
How will
I
you keep the passion when you scale up, like, and you start
Mhm.
to not be one-to-one tied to these clients? How are
Yeah.
you gonna keep that passion at the level it is now, so you're delivering the same quality of service?
Whew, man. So there's a couple of things. One, to me, the mission is critical. Like I want to work with people that understand the purpose for what we're doing and why we're doing it. And so right now I have the only other person I have with me right now is a virtual assistant, and she is phenomenal. And one of the things is I'm like, I want you to understand that our job is to make the lives of our clients easier. That is our job. And so for me, it's I mean, this will not happen fast by any stretch of the imagination, but for me, it is my people understand why we're doing what we're doing, right? It is not to build the LB Trucks coaching empire. It is not so that I get to be center stage, but it is so that we get to make the lives of our clients that much better because they're working with us. And the second their lives are not better, I do hope they fire us. And I know that's risky to say, but I'm like, no, we need to understand how important it is that they are interacting with us, and in interacting with us, their lives are going to be better. So want them to understand the mission of why we're doing what we're doing. I've got a list of core values that I work with, and they are, I'm looking this direction because they're right here. And my number one core value is we leave people better than we found them. And if that is not a core value that you can get on board with, then I'm probably not the best person to come work with. And so we've got the purpose, we've got the core values, and then probably more because of my counseling background, I'll put a plug in for it, the Working Genius, Patrick Lencioni's Working Genius changed my world. I wish I'd had it when I was at my former organization. I probably would have been a much more pleasant person to work with. But I do believe the most successful people are the people that are aware. And so I ask individuals that I work with, I'm like, hey, will you take this assessment? Because it helps me know how to better serve them. Well, then my
Mhm.
clients take the Working Genius assessment, and I share that with my one team member right now. And I'm like, hey, this is how they communicate. This is right. So if they're short with you on email, let me just tell you, it's not about you. Once again, I go back to it is about making their lives better. And so is it always easy? No. Jay, the other day, I had a client text me and I was ready to rip his head off. And I look, and my number one core value is I leave people better than I find them. So I deleted that dang text. And then I was like, nope, I am sending this text. I look up again and I was like, I leave them better than I found them. And I was like, sending that text would have made me feel better for a second, but it wouldn't have left that client better. And so for me, it's about the fundamentals, right? Like, do my people understand what we're on mission to do? Do my people understand that we leave people better than we find them, that we assume the best of others? Like, it is, I do this with my small business owners. I'm like, you have to have those fundamentals in place, because if not, you're going to do what feels good in the moment. I don't know about you, Jay, but sometimes what feels good in the moment is not a good long-term decision.
No, I have lots of deleted texts that I did not send or deleted emails that I did not send. Sleeping on things as a business owner is probably one of the best things you can
Uh-huh.
do.
Uh-huh.
Sleeping on that email you're going to send a client, or that you're going to send a
Hands down.
partner or something. And a lot of times it won't be the same message the next day that you were going to write in the moment. So I totally agree. So you got started with kind of the existing network.
Yeah.
Talk to me about, what are you doing marketing wise today?
Yeah.
How are you keeping your, pipeline full of potential clients? Like, what are you doing today to grow the business from the lead generation perspective?
Yeah. That is probably the thing that keeps me up the most at night. And maybe that's too transparent. But what I've been doing is just trying to put content out there. Right now, every client that I have has come through a recommendation of another client. That's where it's come from. It's being out in the marketplace. So the other day I was doing an offsite with a client, and this guy walked by and poked his head in the door. He's like, "What are you doing in here with these people?" And I was like, "Man, I am pulling them out of technology for a little bit." When I do offsites with clients, I like to limit technology as much as possible because I think as humans, we are so creative, and I want to tap into that creativity. And so, Jay, I go old school, and we pull out magazines, and we have scissors, and we have glue, and we're doing vision boards like 70s style. And so this guy's approached me. He's like, "LB, I'd love to hear more about you, what you're doing." And so I am really heavy on the relationship side. And so my last couple of clients that have come in as referrals, like referrals are really big for me. And so, and I'm doing the posting on LinkedIn. I haven't been as proactive with that lately just because I've been leaning into relationships more. I don't know about you, Jay, but there is so much content out there, like so much content that at times it's super overwhelming. And when someone is like, "Hey, LB, you should work with this person," I'm like, done. And so I'm just seeing the power in connecting with people and going, "Hey, do you know somebody that is looking for a business and leadership?
Mhm.
If so, I've got 2 slots open and I'd love to work with them." And so that's really what I've been doing. And it's really worked well. But I mean, I go back to like in 2015, I just started super serving clients. And that has probably been the best thing, is just building these relationships, investing in these individuals. And I tell people, Jay, I'm like, "Look, coaching is not meant to be forever. You're not meant to be with me forever. Would I love it? Yes, but you're going to outgrow me. Good." And so in that sense, like I know, like, okay, Trucks, you need to be out there, you need to be connecting, but I also know that I really do want to make people's lives better. And so I'm like, okay, is the content I'm putting out there, is it making their lives better or not? The last couple things I put out, I was like,
Right.
"Oh, it's complicated. No, this isn't making their lives better." But I really do think when you serve people well, that's the key. So serving people well, sometimes it's just connecting over coffee, and other times it's just putting that content out there on LinkedIn. But those relationship building and putting out content has been the biggest. But where I constantly see clients come in is referral.
Yeah. I love referrals, obviously, as any business owner does. They also feel they're like a nice bump in the road, right?
Yes.
They're a nice bump in a new client, and everything's great and people are loving you. But I just always worry about the scalability of referrals, right? Like if you're doing marketing,
Yep.
if you're doing outreach, if you're doing inbound, if you're doing whatever, like there's a certain amount of like return for investment. And I think to your point, I think serving clients well, is the same kind of concept where you're putting in a certain amount of time and money and effort to grow a client so they refer you to somebody else. But sometimes they don't. And sometimes they don't have
No.
anybody in their network, and that's not their fault. It's not your fault.
No.
But it's always like the double-edged sword for me with referrals. I love them, obviously, and we have lots of referrals from our business as well. But
Yep.
the traditional getting out there and meeting people, like you said, networking. And so, are you part of any business groups or anything over there in Nashville?
I'm not. I was part of a business group last year and I loved it. It was super fun. It was actually in Colorado. And then I've dipped into some of um the chambers, but I haven't done that a ton. And so that's the space. I'm actually headed to a business conference next week. So my focus this year is, okay, how do I get out there and connect? Not just online, and so like next week I'm in Austin attending a conference because I'm like, all right, Trucks, get out there, like put yourself in space. You don't know people. And how do you get to know them?
Right.
Because I mean, I agree with you, Jay. Like referrals are awesome. I've yet to see anybody be able to 100% scale their business on referrals. And so I
They're
have
just
a friend.
unreliable. They're not reliable.
Mm-mm,
How are you you can't
mm-mm.
count on them. It'll be
And at the
great.
Yeah, but I think at the same time, what I keep telling people is I'm like, look, your business, my business, I think about my business a lot. It is number one on my mind. It is not number one on anybody else's mind, right? And so how do I stay in front of people? And that's the piece. I didn't even realize what I was doing, but I was talking to a sales coach the other day. And that is the other piece is I think it's huge to have a community around you. And so I have a friend that's a sales coach and she was like, you realize you're doing marketing, right? And I was like, yeah, I know. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm writing article, I'm doing these things. She's like, LB, you're texting people. You're checking in. How are you doing? How are you? And I was like, well, yeah, like I care about them. I want to know what they're doing, what they're up to. She's like, that's marketing. That's staying connected. And I mean, I go back to, yeah, but there's people that I know are out there that would benefit from coaching. And so for me, Jay, like that's the LinkedIn piece. And that's the piece that I'm like, okay, like I have a friend who has completely grown her speech coaching business through LinkedIn articles. She's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. She is turning people away. And I was like, girl, what did you do? And she was like, for 1,000 days straight, I posted on LinkedIn. And I was like, there it is.
Yeah. I love that. And I think it also is a great example of something that I heard semi recently, which was like, you're not going to be great at every type of marketing. And the marketing you should do is the kind that you enjoy. Right. So
Yeah.
she probably enjoyed doing LinkedIn. Like, I can't
Yeah.
imagine somebody doing something for 1,000 days straight if they absolutely hate it. Like maybe she just likes doing that. I don't really love writing blog posts, but I do like, doing outbound email campaigns or connecting with people and talking to them on LinkedIn, like doing that sort of stuff, or like doing,
Yeah.
going to these chamber events and meeting people in person, which I used to hate doing. Now I love doing it. So I think that's one of the biggest, like kind of most powerful marketing related messages I heard for small business was like,
Yep.
find the thing you enjoy doing and just do it and just do it consistently. And like I said, 1,000 days straight of LinkedIn, it's fine if that's what you want to do, but you don't have to write blog posts on LinkedIn. You could make videos for LinkedIn. You could,
Yes.
send outbound emails. You could pick a list of people, in your area that you want to go after and send them an email, once a week for the next, 3 months. Like do something consistently over and over again, whatever
Yeah.
it is. Just make sure you enjoy it or you're going to burn yourself into the ground and then you're not going to get
Gosh,
any new business.
100%. And that's the thing that I love that you just said was consistency. Because that is the biggest thing that I'm like, consistency is key. And that's something that I'm just like, okay, like what, and that's where I like for this year, it's business conferences. Last year, I believe everybody should have a coach. So last year I was like, okay, I have a coach. This year it's like, okay, like what does coaching look like for me this year? And so it's like going to business conferences, getting out there, seeing what the marketplace is thinking about. You said it at the beginning, like you got to know your client. You've got to know your customer base. And I feel a little spoiled because I get to coach with them every single day. And so I'm hearing like, okay, what's going on with them? What are they thinking about? And so in that, I just consistency is huge. And I think if that's the one thing in my own life that I'm like, be consistent, Trucks, be consistent, find what you love and just do it again and again and again and again and again and again.
Couple more quick questions.
Yes, sir.
How did you find your customer persona? I mean, you kind of mentioned how you talk to your people every day. You kind of get so like, who is that customer persona for you specifically,
Yeah.
and how are you kind of tailoring your marketing and your sales and all
Yeah.
these in the networking? How are you aligning yourself towards that persona?
Yeah, absolutely. So my first year, I was just like, small business, anybody that runs a small business. And then after that, I was like, oh, this is not, no, 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 no. And so, because I had people that were like, hey, this person's thinking about starting a business. They should come work with you. I was like, no, I'm not the startup coach. Like that is not my gifting. And so what I did was I picked my favorite client. I'll just own it. I picked my favorite client and I was like, favorite client. And I learned everything I could about her. I learned that she had multiple locations. She had been in business over 5 years, well over 5 years. And she was great at what she was doing. And she was struggling with the team. She was struggling. She was like, I don't feel like I have a cohesive team. And so what I realized, Jay, was that I love working with small business owners who are great at what they do. Typically, revenue is anywhere from 1 million or above, and they've been in business more than 5 years. They either have a leadership team or they are And I just get to step in and I get to coach the owner. I get to go in and coach the leadership team. Like that's what I love. And then the other piece, and this is going to sound a little odd, is that I do love the solopreneur. And I have a small business owner. He's brilliant at what he does. And I was like, please don't hire a team. Don't hire a team. He was like, what? I was like, yeah, let's not have you hire a team. I was like, you do so much better when you hire amazing vendors around you and you just run with it. And so I kind of laugh because I'm telling you two very different types like of ideal, or not the ideal client is just what I think. And so, but what I love is that like I love getting to help people build the right resources around them. So I am not the startup coach. I'm like, no, I'm not the one that's going to tell you to do that. But I'm the one that comes in and sees what you've established and goes, okay, how do we help you step up your game? Look like, because some people have the right people on the bus, so to speak, but they just don't know how to communicate well with them. And so I get to come in and go, all right, let's help you better communicate with them. Or, I mean, back to what I said at the beginning, like, I'm like, what's your mission? How are you making this decision? And they're like, well, I don't know. And I'm like, let's get back to that. The thing I hear from the individuals that work for my business owners is like, I don't really have a vision for what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't have and I'm like, got it. And so I can be that bridge between the owner and the team and go, hey, let's talk through this. What does this look like? How can I help you guys better communicate with one another? And so the ideal is really two. It's the solopreneur who's like, I don't want a team. I want to run this. I want to be able to scale it, but not have to have a team of people. And I'm like, okay, we can do this by connecting you with other small businesses that can help you with this. Or, I mean, the irony was that day I met with another client and I was like, okay, we need to build out your leadership team. And he's like, what? LB, what are you talking about? And I was like, no, I was like, dude, you're amazing at leading. Let's help you build out the leadership team so that they can take over the day in and day out. And then you can invest in your team. And so I really do coach to the person rather than make you conform to what I think it should be. So I don't know if that really answers your question, but it's the solopreneur.
No, it did. That was great. No,
Yeah.
that was both. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's solopreneur is not something that I hear all the time from a coach. All right, last question, non-business related.
Oh gosh.
So you can't cheap out and say, I want to make the best business coaching company in the world.
Okay.
If you could do anything on earth and you knew you couldn't fail, what would it be?
Oh my gosh, Jay. I would go run a ranch in Colorado.
First time I've heard run a ranch. Put it on the board, folks. Run a ranch in Colorado. I have not heard that one before.
Work.
I love that question because I get a lot of reactions just like that. And they go, oh my God, what am I supposed to? A ranch in Colorado? Like what kind of ranch? Like a cattle ranch or something?
Well, yeah, like I think about like how fun it would be. Like if you think like in Telluride, Montrose area, there's, who is it? There's somebody famous out there that has a ranch. And I just think how cool it would be. Like, yeah, you have
Kevin Costner. Is that who you're thinking of? No, isn't that his new show?
Oh my gosh, Yellowstone.
I have not seen Yellowstone, but it's all over the place right now. I thought
it's
maybe that's where you got the idea.
It's a fashion designer that's out there. But like I think about like the people like that you could have on the ranch and like you could provide for their livelihood, but then you could also invest in their lives. And I mean, there's just so many different things you could do. And there's people that are great at what they do, but they're like, well, and they want to do it, but maybe somebody's not a great leader. And so they're like, oh, I don't want to work for you. And so I just think about all the possibilities of like, oh my gosh, it would be so cool. Like you have cattle, like maybe even you open it up and have like a camp in the summer for families to get away. Like, don't get me wrong, Jay, we're able to do this because of technology. I love the technologies. And at the same time, I've seen such benefit in my own life from pulling away from it and just being. So
that's my favorite. That's probably my favorite answer of all time because it is right. Hey, you do. Like, it's like what was that show? Hey Dude or something from the 90s. There's like a Nickelodeon show where they were on a ranch.
Oh my gosh.
Remember Hey Dude? That was a great show.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah, it was a long time ago. Okay. How can people find you if they? And by the way, I was just thinking like LB, like the Trucks Ranch, like the LB Trucks Ranch. It sounds like a great
My
ranch
gosh.
name. You know, the Trucks
Yes.
Ranch is just such a nice. It
That's such a
sounds like a. It sounds like it should exist already. All right,
right.
if you want to find you, LB, how do we do that, and how do we get in touch with you?
lbtruckscoaching.com is the hands. It is the best way
Nice
to.
and easy. What
Yeah.
about LinkedIn? Can they
Oh
hit you
yeah.
on
Oh
LinkedIn?
yeah. I'm on LinkedIn too. Yeah. Yeah. LB Trucks. So just in the business world, I go by LB. It's so much easier. And so I've done that since my early 20s. And so I was like, okay. So yeah. So LB Trucks Coaching, and maybe a couple of years down the road, look for the ranch and come out and hang out with us. But yeah, there's
Yes, I'll bring my family out to the ranch, and we'll stay in the barn.
yeah.
All right. All right, LB, you're fantastic.
Oh, Jay, it was
Be
great.
good. Have a good rest of your week. And it was great talking to you. All right. I'll
All
see
right.
you.
Thanks, sir.